Hey Blerdies, hey fandom fam. It's me, Mike, the Chuck Inspirer. I'm letting my hair breathe. As you saw on all of my social media, link is located within the description of this video. And I'm just want to let you guys know that thank you so much for following me, keeping up with my videos, and we're continuing on with Camp Butterfly. So, welcome back to Faith's Butterfly Vlog, where we help grown-ups raise little learners one adventure at a time. This last whole month has been all about the big adventure of Camp Butterfly. And I'm going to go more into it. So basically, welcome to, if you're new here, welcome to my little community that I'm, working and building. It's for adulting adults who are preparing for parenthood, navigating life if little ones that they already have, or if maybe you're an adult who may not have experience with kids but might be want to go into childcare. So everything that I'm talking about is going to be designed to help support children from birth to ages 5, maybe even to 6. We got a little pre-K friends, but it's mainly 0 to 5 with confidence and with joy. So the last 2 weeks, we had explored nature and we learned about the power of water play. Two very big, two very big areas of learning that we don't really think about, but can be really great areas for kids to learn and develop skills while still having fun. That's one of the big cores of childcare, being able for them to learn and develop while they're still having fun and not realizing that they're learning these new skills. And so this week we're celebrating something that every child has, which is creativity. So this is a week I was really excited about because it's all about art, all about music, movement, anything connected to creativity. And creativity isn't just painting a nice, pretty picture. It's one of the most powerful things young children learn, used to learn, communicate, and make sense about the world around them. So let's dive into why creativity matters and how we can encourage that creativity every single day. So what is creativity? When you hear the word creative, many of you, or maybe even me sometimes, it made you think of art. I mean, that's what you think of when you think of creative. You see pictures of art, you may think of a famous artist. That's the first that we think when we hear creativity. But creativity is so much bigger than crayons and paint. Creativity is problem solving. It's curiosity. It's pretending a cardboard box is a spaceship. It's building the tallest block tower possible, because you don't think stacking blocks is something that's creative, but it is. They are making, little cities. Maybe they might pretend one little block is a car. It's making up songs while cleaning up toys, something that I kind of need to work on myself. And it's like dancing around the living room because your favorite song just came onto the radio, or it's running through the track in your Spotify. So for young children, creativity is one of the first ways they learn to express thoughts and emotions before they can use words to explain them. And that's why creativity is such an important thing that we need to protect, because we focus so much on reading and math, the whole uniformal education style. But it starts with creativity. It starts with art. It starts with music, dance. Like, I think that along with all those other things, you should introduce that as soon and as early as possible. And the best part about creativity, it could be anything, and you could use creativity yourself to be able to impart that on to a young child, and not have to, feel like you have to force it to work a certain way. That's one of the best things about creativity. Like, it's more about the process than the product. So why creativity is important for children ages 0 to 5? Children don't create because they're trying to impress others. Children, they're going to be like, the thing that I learned, the children's going to tell it like it is. They don't need to, if they see something and if they want to share what they think, they are going to share it, and not really like trying to construct some other way around, unless they were taught that. 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell what they're really thinking. So if they are really want to do something and create art, it's not going to be for the purpose of trying to, make people like it. They're going to create it because they themselves like it. They create because they're exploring. When babies, they finger paint using, of course, child safe paints, or maybe using food coloring and yogurt. They're learning about textures, their colors, and movements. When toddlers, they stack blocks, they're experimenting with balance, learning about cause and effect, and also about persistence, because if blocks fall down, they could always just stack it right back up again. And when preschoolers are drawing a picture and they're telling a story about it, elaborate, detailed story, they're strengthening their language, memory, and sequence and imagination all at once. All of those skills, all of those components are working as they're doing this process. And they're doing all this and they don't even know it. And creativity, a creative experience can also help with children building fine motor skills, using their crayons, using um, crayons, markers, paint, finger paint, paint brushes. They can develop confidence. They practice decision making. I don't know why that was such an issue with me. They're exploring their emotions in a healthy way, and they're strengthening communication and learning to solve problems in a creative way. So the amazing part is that children don't even realize that they're learning when they're being creative. To them, they're just simply having fun. And that's the whole thing. When, a child is having fun, they don't realize that they're really learning something as they're having fun. And I think that is amazing and spectacular. So process over product. I just mentioned this early before. I want to share one of the biggest mindset shifts I learned in early childcare is to focus on the process and not on the product. Like this is a huge thing, not only when it came to just creative process, but just anything in general. When a child is, doing an activity and they're practicing something that would be, that they're learning and developing. Something as simple as, a child learning to use scissors to cut pieces of paper. They're already learning and they're not even realizing. They just think, ooh, yay, paper. So, process over product. Sometimes adults accidentally take over a child's activity because we want everything to be neat. Like that's just the thing that we are. Like we're always in that mindset. We have to make sure that things are in place. And we sometimes have a habit, and I hate to admit it, but this happened to me before, that I, focus so much on, the child completing an activity instead of them just like letting them learn on their own. And sometimes we do it for them. And, that's not always the case. That's always no need to do that. We fix the painting, color inside the lines. We tell them the sky has to be blue. They don't have, it doesn't have to be blue just because it's blue outside. Maybe they want to make the sky yellow or they want to make it green. We don't have to do that if they're creating it on a picture. But creativity isn't about making identical projects. It's about having children the freedom to experiment. Instead of asking, what is it? Try asking, tell me about your picture. That's a simple question. Uh, and that simple question does invite conversation and encourage storytelling. And it lets children know that their ideas is important. So instead of just trying to fix art, making it look a certain way, just let kids be able to do what they do, with whatever that they're creating, and just ask them, ask them why would you, like gave you that idea to create that picture, or tell me the story of the this little circle over here and the little friend with the extra six legs. I don't know, but ask those questions. Let them tell you the story. Kids are big storytellers, even if they aren't creating something. Sometimes they can say something that their dad did. Like I remember I was subbing at a school, and kids were talking about how everything, how their parents, they could swim in lava. It was just the most interesting conversation. So yeah, focus on process over product. Just let kids be able to tell you what they're creating. And simple ways to encourage creativity. The good news that you don't need expensive supplies. We're always all about keeping it simple, keep it budget friendly. So yes, creativity is part of that simple process. So some of the best creative experiences uses things that you already have. You can save cardboard boxes, or maybe even something as small as a shoebox for a kid to come up with something. You can collect leaves and sticks outside. You can recycle containers. You could get one of those little uh you know like one of my favorite activities. One of the favorite things to make for children is the sensory bottles. Like you save maybe a water bottle that you finish, and clean it out. You could put like maybe either small pebbles, you put either small beads, put glitter inside of it, fill it up with some water. Even you could throw in some oil to make it flow a little bit more within the bottle. Make sure they're sealed very tight, and they can shake it up, and they enjoy it. It's fun. They enjoy that for hours. Like I've seen different types of sensory bottles, and kids love them. You could turn old magazines into collages. Maybe you have a magazine that you're not using anymore. You could cut it out. Kids could practice sticking with glue and paper and just have whatever pieces that they want. or simply just dancing around in the living room. Just put on some music and they have them just jump around and they can come up with whatever dances they want. And a kid does not need to know a TikTok dance just to be able to just dance. Like like it's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be choreographed. It's not the VMAs or American Music Awards. They don't need. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. Create music using pots and wooden spoons. You can tell silly stories to each other. Um, Even reading books with even taking just a book that has really beautiful illustrations. Go to your local library, find a book that has beautiful pictures, and just read it to them. And don't forget to take the creativity outside. Nature itself is full of inspiration. Like I said, collect those leaves, collect those flowers. You can use it in a collage. Just simply sitting outside and just ask a child what they see, and maybe they'll come up with a story about what they see. It's so much different opportunities to encourage in creativity with your child. And remember, the children don't need perfect materials; they just need permission to imagine. So I want to share a couple of media inspirations. I shared it over on my social media, links located within the description. And so one of the favorite things about encouraging creativity is pairing hands-on activities with meaningful media. So sometimes you might watch something or maybe read something and maybe be like, okay, now that we did that, let's see what you can make with these. So for infants and toddlers, I've recommended the Baby First Art and Music Sensory Wonderland series. I haven't heard about this series, but this was like the top recommendation that I had searched for. So introduce very little learners, our little infants and toddlers, to colors, music, movement, shapes, and also sensory experiences that would encourage early creativity through gentle, engaging visuals. So, the young ones, I always say do not sleep on the young ones because they are just as capable of learning as way more than maybe your general 25-year-old or 30-year-old or whatever. Like they are at an age that they're ready to pick up anything and everything. So I think this would be perfect, encouraging earlier creativity. And they don't even know it. It'd be something that would be important to them that they'd be able to express and experience later. Now, for preschoolers, I absolutely love Disney's Fantasia and Fantasia 2000. So these films, I'm pretty sure you all knew about it. Like this films came, I think 2000 had came out when I was in elementary school, and it's very very beautiful and engaging engaging animation combined with classical pieces. So these films blend classical music with imaginative animation. It encourages children to think creatively. They notice emotions through music and dream beyond what is right in front of them. So after watching, maybe invite your little learner to maybe paint while listening to music, or they could create their own story that inspired by what they saw. Like great activities for preschoolers. And that's where the real magic begins. So before we wrap up, I want to encourage every parent, future parent, or childcare pro watching this. Please don't worry about creating perfect Pinterest crafts. The goal isn't to raise perfect artists. The goal is to raise confident, curious children who aren't afraid to try something new. Celebrate the scribbles, display the figure paintings, dance to silly songs, listen to made up stories. Those little moments are building creative thinkers, resilient listeners, and confident communicators. So thank you so much for spending part of your day with me at Camp Butterfly, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Well, this week's video. I'd love to know how your little learner loves to express their creativity. So be sure to leave that comment below so we can inspire one another, or maybe inspire someone else who might be looking for something that was in this area. I know I'm running a little bit long, but this is just one of my favorite areas of favorite areas for young children. So of course it's going to run a little long. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and follow Face Butterfly Blog on all the social media for more childcare tips, activities, and media recommendations and encouragement. You'll find all of my links once again in the description. Yep, I'm going to keep saying it. It's in the link tree and down below. So now, next week is going to be our final Camp Butterfly. Uh, Final week for Camp Butterfly, the full week, and it's going to be on Little Adventurers. So we're basically celebrating confidence, independence, and all of the amazing ways our little learners have grown over this summer. And so, until next time, Keep helping those little wings grow. And I'll be seeing you back at Camp Butterfly. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for following me. And I hope you guys had a good week and you're going to have another great one. So remember to stay blessed and blurtiful, fearless, care more, and have the loveliest of lovely days. Bye.